And I'm going to start the recording, and we're got the show going on right now. So the ones that are joining us for the first time, well, we know we have a number of you out there doing that. Welcome aboard to the Zoom Rock Room. This is a program that's held the first and third Tuesdays of each month, generally. And we have a certain theme each week, as you'll see in the intro here coming up very soon. Special programs. It's a free thing for the ones that just came in tonight through PA Rockhounding or the sites of Rockhounding. If you want to continue to get invitations, just email us and we'll add you to what I call the seasonal pass. Okay, and you get an invite every time that you want to sign on. So we're going to start with our intro here tonight. And of course, the Zoom Rock Room, as it's called, started way back in April of 2020. And as a result of the COVID, we weren't able to go out and see our lovely people, our public out there. So we thought we could bring them to you, because we got the Zoom Rock Room sponsored by Lair Architect in Lake Havasu City, Arizona. Actually paid the bill. And if you weren't with us in the last one, I did announce that Lair Architect has signed on for another year through April 2024. They know that these programs are being attended by people that are just liking what they're seeing, and we always thank them for support. I always encourage anybody to email lairarchitect@yahoo.com to let them know that you are a participant in the Zoom Rock Room and you appreciate the opportunity. The Dirt Man, Mr. Andrew Rockhound, with his Extreme Cody series, and he's going to have a video coming up here at the end of our intro today. That's going to be simply amazing, I think. And we did send out the link in the last week to our members, his conversation with the Middle Susquehanna River Keeper about the geologic history of the Susquehanna River. And if you haven't seen that, check it out. Very well done. And of course, the history of the Susquehanna River itself is just simply, of course, incredible. Highlight for you, 2 geology programs coming up at the Institute in Waynesboro, Pennsylvania. Thursday night, May the 4th. That's not too far away, folks. I'm going to do an indoor program at the Church of the Apostles in Waynesboro at 7 o'clock. Program's called The Other Side of the Mountain, which we're going to talk about actually the geology and minerals, fossils of York County, because May 6th, we're taking a bus trip from Waynesboro to into York County for a full day, and we're going to make about 9 different stops to look at some rocks, talk about some fossils and all that. And I do understand that the bus is getting fuller and fuller. So if you do want to go on that trip, all the information is right there at their website, natureandcultureinstitute.org. Crystal Cove Collective, one of our sponsors, they give us some free specimens to send out to folks when we have a contest. So they're at the Lower Allen Shopping Center up in Camp Hill, Pennsylvania. If you're in that area, go see Michael and Krista. They're also located in the York area, actually at the Thomasville at Morning Sun Market, open Saturdays and Sundays. At the Morning Sun Market, they do have a stand there. Coming up, South Mountain Fairgrounds, the semi-annual Rock Swap and Sale, May 13th, 8 to 3, at Artsville, Adams County, Pennsylvania. Admission's only $1, and there's a number of people who show up who want to swap or sell for very, very good prices, minerals, fossils, gems. Usually our own Steve Lindbergh is there to do some selling also with some stuff. So put that in your calendar, May the 13th. They will do it again in October, is a similar event. Melanie, you want to do these last two?
Of course. So the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about the Youth Archaeology Week, an amazing camp for young children in June, the end of June, from June 19th to June 23rd. It is all day long. And these kids do a good job. They get their hands dirty. They dig around in the dirt and they find some really cool stuff over at Cadorus State Park. So scan that QR code, ask Jerry about more information. If you have a child, a grandchild, a neighbor, any kid who you think might be interested, it is always a good time.
And I will tell you, we have 21 to 24 students. So we only have 3 spots left. So don't dally if you have a grandchild or a child.
All right, and the rest in our updated schedule. May 2nd, we'll see you back here for Minds of Montgomery County in Pennsylvania with Mr. Ron. And then we'll move on to the end of May, May 16th. We're talking about the history of the search for the ideal stone, potomatic marble. In June 6th, we're already into June. We're into summer already, guys, the summer months. Famous geological vacation spots quiz night. So that'll be really fun and competitive. And hopefully we'll have a good time doing that. June 20th, what is ground pre-training radar with Peter Weston. July 4th, no Zoom rock room because it is the holiday. It is the 4th of July, so hopefully you're having picnics, you're eating some good food, you're with family, you're with friends. I know we're in the end of July already, and that has yet to be determined. So we will update you as soon as we know what our program looks like for as far out as the end of July already, folks.
Okay. We're going to turn it over to Andrew. He has his newest clip for us to view.
All right, everybody. So this time, you all saw that I was in a podcast with the Middle Susquehanna Riverkeeper, John Zaktansky. I'm not sure if he's on tonight, but after that podcast, I was contacted by Doug Fessler, who is here tonight with us in the room. And he had found a kind of cool radioactive cave. So I did a Dirtman report on it, and it's pretty fun. This is the most yelling I have ever done in a Dirtman report. So this should be quite hilarious and fun for everybody. This is called Rockhounding Rock Hazards. So without further ado, I'm just sharing screen here. Give me 1 second. All right, everybody, enjoy.
Hey Rockhounds, Dirtman here with another special report. Rockhound rock hazards can be dangerous but avoidable with basic safety awareness and common sense. Poison ivy, poisonous snakes, bees and insects. But there's another Rockhound rock hazard that common sense nor any of your senses will save you from. Just mention the term radioactive, and most people will think of this. Or here in Pennsylvania, they'll think of this. Or maybe even this. But there are other sources of radiation in our environment, like radon in houses. And here, the Sherman Creek member of the Catskill Formation. Today, I'm at Shikellamy State Park, site of where the western and the northern branches of the Susquehanna River come together, to meet up with the legend, the Middle Susquehanna Riverkeeper John Zaktansky, and the crazy scientist Doug Fessler, after they told me about a radioactive cave here at the park. So I said, I'll be there Sunday. This rock formed as uranium-enriched water settled in muddy sediment. eventually hardening into the rock we see today, which is still emitting radiation after 360 million years.
Oh yeah, we're getting hotter.
678, we're all gonna die! Oh no! But before you go all hazard suit, 600 CPM is considered dangerous. But unless you're planning on moving into this cave, you're probably gonna be fine. Just call it nature's microwave. Just takes a couple years to cook.
So how'd you all first find this place? What made you bring a meter out here?
Oh boy, it goes back a little bit. When I was young, I actually found this place because when you drive up here, you see a cave, so I knew it was here. And my uncle, Frank Zerby, he said, hey man, you want to be careful, there's radioactive material there, and I didn't think anything of it. So, and that's back when I was, I don't know, kind of like 20. So years have passed, and this year I finally broke down and bought a Geiger counter, and
They are expensive.
yeah, I got to thinking about the story my uncle told, right? And I'm like, I wonder, and I came over here, and sure enough, yeah,
It's going nuts.
it's going, yeah.
Well, Doug alerted me to, this through here along the edge of the river. This is at the point where the North and West branches converge into the main stem of the Susquehanna. Said, always concerned about what issues and concerns might be lurking in our waterways. Any kind of an issue or concern of water quality is something we look into, and very curious to see what this means as far as the bigger scope of things.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we got to work and found some very interesting things, like this cave flower that survived weathering on the cliff face. And inside the cave, this copper or malachite deposit. Both are found here. And fallen from the cave roof. So these are the fern fossils from this formation. Very nice fossils, but surprisingly, they're not showing much radiation beyond background. Everything seems to be contained to these more messed up and broken up layers. There are these sections that have definitely been compressed a lot more. And that's where we're getting the higher readings. Showing the difference here, this is 31 on this side of the rock, and just on this side, we're off the charts at 530. So really what we're finding is such a narrow zone of active radiation, there isn't much danger to the surrounding environment. Even the center of this cave reads only slightly higher than my living room at 47 CPM. Still considered safe background level. So the next time you're exploring a new area, consider some kind of detector, just in case. I'm Dirtman.
I'm John.
And I'm Doug.
Bringing the geology to you from here in the Middle Susquehanna. Back to you, Jerry.
All right. Very nice job there, Andrew. Yep, great.
And Doug is in the room. If Doug wants to say hi, or John, if John's here too, just say hi.
Hello, how's everyone doing?
There's Doug, crazy scientist. He is the
Yeah.
man.
I had a lot of fun doing it. I'm glad that you came up.
That scares me when you say a crazy scientist. Oh my. Before we get our program started, I just want to make a little announcement that my wife, Luann, this morning had a knee replacement surgery. And she's resting overnight in the hospital, but all is good, and she's been up walking plenty and feeling good. And it's amazing how they did this technique now with a robotics since I understand since September. This technique was started actually by OSS here in York. So it's amazing. She's doing good. I'm afraid when she comes home, she will be able to lift her leg to kick me in the butt more than she's been able to in the last year and a half. So I need to be paying attention to what I'm doing. So I've only been up since 4:15 this morning. So we're hanging in there. So with that, without further ado, let's get the show on the road here, as they always say. And that's why you are here. So let's do this. Okay. I thought about this program because I do follow, of course, several apps pertaining to Pennsylvania. collecting, and a lot of questions, or a lot of people asking questions like, I'm a new person. How do I get started? And that's a great question, really is. So tonight we have a great lineup for you. Besides, I'm going to do a little introductory thing. Then my co-host Melanie will be doing some tools, and Steve Lindbergh and Pete Fountain are going to join in and do some. I think Steve's going to talk about how to identify some things or techniques to use, and Pete will be talking about using the apps and other information, and the advantage of maybe joining a club. And then Andrew Rockhound will put a plug in for the Central Pennsylvania Rock and Mineral Club and anything else that he wants to do. So, rocks are everywhere. Where we have rocks, you could have minerals, fossils, whatever, right? So rocks are in everybody's life for sure. And some places that you can go collect, particularly in this case with a group, you have a beautiful landscape, like this up in near Caledonia State Park area at Mount Sidonia, one of my favorite places to go, because it's just a panoramic view of South Mountain, the Blue Ridge Mountains. So, in my job, I see beauty as one of the advantages. Some people have rocks in their backyard, front yards, whatever, and they've taken advantage of having a rock garden on board. Okay, and they don't even have to make it. They just kind of build in it or around it. And some people use rocks for decoration. I cannot help to take this picture of a dia-based boulder in Lancaster County, dressed for the holidays. And this is a classic up in Vermont. This gentleman built several cars out of flagstone. So you can get really, really creative doing that way. And really, probably more importantly, we can kick up a friendship, maybe a lifelong friendship, as several people in this shot. If you've been around for a little bit of time, you probably knew this gentleman, Jay Leininger, who lived in Dillsburg, one of the best mineral collectors in Pennsylvania before he passed on. He's also a publisher. He published several of my books that I did. And this is Mr. White, who was the curator at the Smithsonian Institute in DC, who's also a York Countian. And this was a couple visiting from, I believe, the state of Washington that were in a quarry here in York County. So, Barry Geology of Pennsylvania. We have igneous rocks, sedimentary, metamorphic rocks. We have rocks that are super old. We have rocks that are the same age as the dinosaurs. We have a very varied geology. So that gives you the opportunity not only to find different minerals in these areas, but also, of course, fossils and maybe some gemstones. That's one thing Pennsylvania is not really well known for, are gemstones, because a lot of our rocks have been metamorphosed, changed by heat and pressure. And if we had any gemstones, they've gotten destroyed. But minerals, for example, are great to collect. And the crystal systems, the crystal shapes, the colors are attractive. The calcite, pyrite, millerite. We have a millerite locality in southern Lancaster County at the Gap Nickel Mine. Collecting is not real good anymore. There's a picture of wolfenite from down in Mexico, for example. But the crystals, and they're of course always pleasant to collect and to display if you have friends over. Okay, so here's the 10 reasons why you should collect. Okay, you can decorate, you can experience the great outdoors. Rocks, minerals, and fossils can be valuable. Fulfillment of natural curiosity, that's a big one. Every rock and fossil has a story to tell you. nature's creations and beautiful. And approximately there's 430 mineral specimens in Pennsylvania at the last count. Some people use minerals, rocks, gems, even fossils for arts and crafts. Great talking pieces. There's always a story behind how did I collect that? Where did I collect it? And of course, awesome for admiring. So people love to collect for many reasons. Or they like to collect trilobites. That's one of my favorite fossil groups. General fossils, there are people who just enjoy finding fossils. It doesn't really matter what class it is. Maybe a certain mineral species. I know people who only collect calcites, for example. Okay, different crystal shapes. They like to see the 7 different crystal shape systems. Fluorescent minerals. We'll talk about that in a second. Andrew just talked a little bit about radioactive minerals. There's people that only collect radioactive minerals. And dinosaur fossils. Although in Pennsylvania, all we have found are footprints. We have never found a dinosaur bone per se. We have found reptile bones that lived with dinosaurs, but no actual dinosaur fossils. And of course, just plain old pretty things. You like it? That can be yours, folks, right? So we love to see smiles on people's faces. If it's an adult, on this field trip that we did to Lancaster County, or this young lady holding in her hand a Scolithus worm tube. She was very happy with her find at that particular quarry on that day. Know the history. Do some research about the mining history of your area, wherever you're from. Okay, and certainly, of course, with the internet these days, there's tons and tons of stuff online. Or you go down to the local historical society. This is actually the first project I ever did in this case, I was still in college when I studied the Bamford zinc mine in Lancaster County, which became the Kellogg cereal plant. And so I had to know the history. I learned the history of the Bamford zinc mine and knew what kind of minerals might be there and just the regular history about it. Gold. There is gold in Pennsylvania. Again, look at the internet. Southeastern Pennsylvania has a number of streams within Adams, York, Lancaster, Lebanon County. I won't forget about Chester, Delaware County, and even downtown Philadelphia. Gold has been found. But again, doing some research, you'll find out what streams do have gold. Besides the internet, there are some books out there if you can still find these. These are now out of print and they're not really online anymore, but you can still find them in collectors' geology books like online. Fossil Collecting in Pennsylvania gives you some great sites. Some of those now are closed or have been covered up, but it gives you an idea what fossils have been found in my county. Same as minerals, what we call the G33 book. Again, some of those sites are now obsolete, closed, but again, they will tell you what county they're from, and you might find other localities of those minerals in your backyard. These are good books by Robert Beard of Rockhounding in Delaware, Maryland, DC metro area, and Rockhounding in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Robert had a lot of sites in there for you to go to. He does warn that some of these are private property and you need permission to access them, and which is a very, very important key as a rock hounder. Field Guide to the Devonian Fossils of New York is a great resource book because we have a lot of Devonian rocks in Pennsylvania, and the same fossils found in New York and the Devonian rocks are found in Pennsylvania. So that's a great book. Lots of good drawings. And again, a little obsolete, but again, it gives you collecting sites fossil collecting in the mid-Atlantic states within Pennsylvania, Maryland, West Virginia, Virginia. Again, some of those sites are no longer available, but again, it gives you some reference to what is in my neck of the woods. So fern fossils, if you like coral, the lower left is an Atriops dinosaur footprint, and the Eldridgeops trilobite, which is actually our state fossil, had been called the Phacops. Phacops is now a family of trilobites. Eldridgeops is a species of the Phacops family. But that's our state fossil, again, Devonian in age, that you can go out and find. And what I try to do, particularly if I'm going to visit a quarry, in this case, I actually was a consultant for this quarry before they shut down and got reclaimed, but to know the quarry or site, you visit the quarry or any site more than once, you start to learn, particularly in a quarry, where certain minerals can be found. Okay, what layers may produce the best calcite, or the pyrites, or sphalerite, whatever. Okay, start to read a quarry, and if you go to a collecting site, maybe an old mine dump, you're going to realize that some of the dumps are better than the other dumps. Maybe I can find more malachite in the dump over here on the right. I might find more paramorphite over here in the dump to the left. So read the site, okay, and you'll learn that as you go back and back again. And micro mounting minerals. This is one of the, in my opinion, he's the best micro mounter in Pennsylvania, Larry Eisenberger. And Larry's been involved in mineral collecting, micros, since about 1983. He has a phenomenal collection of Pennsylvania species, but he doesn't have a big area to put them in. He don't need them. So if you want to get into micro mounting, where you look for the small crystals, storage is a big advantage. You can store 5,000 specimens in a rather small area. It's fairly easy collecting. You don't need to be climbing the piles to get to the minerals. There's minerals basically in every rock. Perfection means that the crystals are actually much better formed in micro mounting, okay, than they are in hand specimen. You'll see a variety of minerals through the microscope. Usually they don't cost a lot of money because of their size. There are no fakes in micro mounting, and shipping is cheap. Year-round fun, like Larry does. He goes to a quarry, he collects, and he brings the stuff home, and then he on a bad day, weather-wise, he'll get in and start breaking the rock open at home and seeing what's in there. Weird and wonderful stuff. You see some extremely exotic crystals, and also it's of course free stuff, meaning that everybody gives away their junk rock, which has micros in it. They don't want the micros, they want the big stuff. So here's one of Larry's drawers, for example. You can see how many specimens he has in one of his drawers. And by the way, this is all cataloged with numbers, locations, species. He has done a phenomenal job doing micro mounting. He loves to talk micro mounting. Fluorescent minerals, as I said, there are people who just enjoy collecting fluorescents. In Franklin, New Jersey is the capital of the world for fluorescent minerals. But again, I know people who just enjoy collecting fluorescents. And we get into the lapidary section, where people just love to make creations out of their gemstones, either as jewelry. The mineral tree there on the right, they have the setup with the laps and the wheels to do anything they want to, and that's what they enjoy. And group collecting, that's a big thing too, because there's people in groups who are interested in helping others. If you're new to collecting, you have no idea what you're doing, what you're looking for, go with a group, and there's somebody in that group, at least one person, who's going to tell you or show you what to look for. Okay, and that's an advantage of joining a club, because that's one of the purposes of having a club, plus the insurance that they can carry that allows them to get into places that the general public cannot do. So speaking of which, we'll be talking about rock clubs here at the end. But that's how I really got started in my geology world, was like people like Jay Loniger showed me, what I was looking for and the how to do sort of thing. So what happens after you collected the stuff? You want to wash it. You want to examine the specimen really closely, identify any minerals or fossils the best that you can using resources, and label specimens with the date, location, and date, name, location, and date on the specimens to make it just that much more valuable. So try to ID some stuff on your own. There's plenty of resources, again, online and in printed materials. So you can display your minerals however you feel you want to, either in drawers like this or cabinets like this. And if you find something that is special, it may end up down at the Smithsonian Institute, down in their what's called their back room, where they keep all the special fossils, minerals around the world. Here's a label. This is from an old collection of a York County collector who was actually a very fine collector in dinosaurs and trilobites. And this is actually a piece of petrified wood that he found along the Susquehanna River area. So just some resources that are out there. Pennsylvania Geologic Survey, great website. PA Rockhounds and Penn Minerals. Mine date is very, very valuable for leading you to sites. Carnegie, the Academy of Natural Sciences at Drexel Hill, and of course the Pennsylvania State Museum. So that's the end of my section now, and I'm going to stop sharing, and we're going to move over to Melanie, who's going to show you some tools that you may want to have on hand for whatever you get into. Melanie?
Sure, let me find my screen to share. Give me one moment to find my slides. All right, can we see this?
Yep, that's good.
Awesome. All right, so let's begin. The essential tools for rock hounding. They start with hammers to break your rocks. If you go into a hardware store and you ask for a geologist hammer, the Lowe's guy or the Home Depot guy might look at you a little bit funny. So ask to see their masonry hammers. A hammer with a flat chiseled end is an excellent tool for splitting rocks apart if you're looking for fossils, for instance. A pick at the end also works for when you're trying to split a rock and you're looking for minerals inside. So it all depends on your personal preference. And then for heavier work, obviously there's a lot more heavy duty. For heavy work, you can always use a mini sledgehammer or a regular sledge on standby. Often when you are visiting a site, you will find a nice cluster of minerals or fossils in a larger rock. that your mason hammer might not be able to handle. It might be too small. So go a little bit bigger, go a little bit more heavy duty with a sledgehammer. When you're collecting in old mine dumps or in a quarry with soil or clay, for instance, a pick or a shovel is an excellent tool. In old mine dumps, people dig holes underneath tree roots, which help in keeping the roof of your hole stable so it doesn't collapse while you're digging, while you're looking. So dig, remove rocks as you're digging, and then take a break and break open some rocks. When working in bedrock, various chisels can come in handy. If you want to remove rock, for instance, the pick as well. Find a natural fracture in the bedrock to loosen the rock you are trying to identify or get a closer look at. Use the pry bar to totally remove the rock from this position. And of course, safety. Safety comes first. Always a first priority, especially when you are on a Rock and Mineral Club sponsored trip in an active quarry. Safety is the utmost importance in quarries because they are dangerous environments. Although very, very cool and have some awesome stuff, they can be a little dangerous. So safety gear is always required for anyone in attendance. If you're in a mineral club and you're attending one of these trips, it is always needed. Make sure you read all the safety rules for that location that you are visiting. And oftentimes there's an orientation before the collecting even starts to review the do's and don'ts of what that quarry or space expects from their visitor. So please pay attention to those. It's utmost important. Hard hats, of course. Hard hats can save a life in a quarry environment. There may be locations such as an old mine dump where hard hats will not be required. Always travel with a first aid kit for emergencies. Remember that some rocks and minerals have super sharp edges and can cut you pretty easily. So be cautious of where you're putting your hands. If you have gloves, if you have a hard hat, be cautious of all that safety gear. And nowadays, everyone has a cell phone on them. So make sure you have a cell phone in hand that is fully charged, battery's good, the ringer is all the way up in case of an emergency situation and first responders might need to be called. Make sure you have one in your pocket. All right, and here's Andrew. He's created his own backpack, carrying all of those things thus far that I had pointed out and probably more as like a tool pack of things that he might have in handy, things that he likes to use while he's digging, while he's exploring. So, and even that first aid kit there on the back, he's being smart. So good job, Andrew, pat on the back. Take some boxes along as well. You need a place to put all your specimens. You know, if you're looking for rocks, you're looking for minerals, you're going to need a place to put them if you expect to collect any. So bring boxes along for your specimens, but it's very important to wrap them first with old newspaper, bubble wrap, or some other form of wrapping to protect your minerals. It's kind of amazing how many times rocks do get broken during transportation, whether you're hiking back to a vehicle, you know, while the cars are in a vehicle, we are hitting bumps on mountain roads. Always good to wrap up your specimens so they don't break in travel. You know, you would really hate to destroy a specimen that you were really, really proud of finding, and then after transportation figuring out that it might have shattered or broken. So carry a pencil with you too, pencil and paper, old-fashioned pencil and paper to write down names of fossils, minerals, or rocks that you don't want to forget, any moments you don't want to forget, any notes. Note-taking is always preferred. All right, a hand lens, simple tool, but amazing. Is an amazing tool that you can use. So a hand lens is great to use in the field for identifying different specimens. With some quarries and abandoned mines, the best looking crystals often are micro in size. They're very small, but they're still worth keeping. They're still really cool and worth keeping those specimens. So hand lenses really come in handy for looking at those small details. Sometimes dental picks even come in handy to remove small pieces of rock or dirt or clay to better expose a crystal or a fossil. A topo map, a topographical map also comes in handy. Finding your location or locating an old mine or a fossil site that you're trying to find. These maps are great once you know how to read them. And apps. You know, we have, like I said, we have cell phones in our pockets now. Yes, a pencil and paper and a map is always handy, but use your technology if you have it. The app RockD is a traveling geological app with lots of extra information built into the app to assist you. So it is a highly recommended app for anyone in search of rocks and fossils and different minerals. If we're not using our technology, you know, we're going back to books. Everyone loves a good classic field guide. To use apps or books in the field is super valuable to learn about what you actually found. What did you see? What were the specimens that you found? How valuable are they? Although much of the IDing will occur at home or in an office, a lab, sometimes, you know, you just get so excited. You want to know right then and there what you have in your hands, what you have in your box, what specimen you found. So there's ways of doing that. There is an expert on hand. If you're with an expert geologist, you know, don't be bashful. You're on a field trip with them. You're traveling with them. You're looking for minerals with them for a reason. They want you to learn their preferred science. They love geology. They want other people to learn and appreciate it as well. So don't be bashful to show your specimen in person. Like I said, most times people enjoy sharing their knowledge with others. So feel free to ask. Right, we're moving on. If you're only interested in finding one mineral, that's okay. Sometimes people have specialties. So if we're looking for one mineral, for instance, gold. We talked about gold being in Pennsylvania when Jerry was speaking. You need to travel with a gold panning set and a sieve, along with a shovel. Dig deep holes in streams to look for these specific minerals. Remember, the heaviest minerals, such as gold, settle to the bottom of the stream along with a host of other heavy minerals. So they're all going to settle to the bottom. You're going to need that shovel. You're going to need that pick, and then to sift it all out. So all of those heavy things to settle to the bottom for you to examine even closer. To increase your productivity of moving sediment when panning, invest or build a sluice box, where the water is used to settle all the heavy minerals into carpeted compartments, and the light-weighted minerals are swept away. So again, all of those lightweight minerals or debris in the stream is all going to flow away, and everything that is heavy, like in this instance, if you're looking for gold, is all going to settle to the bottom. It's all going to get sifted out, and it's going to be a lot easier to pick through, to find, to classify. And of course, leave the heavy work to the professionals. Okay, they are trained to do this. They have PhDs in this science. So leave all the heavy work. You know, we all think about quarries. You know, sometimes we have explosions. So sometimes you may get lucky enough to get into a quarry with an insured group soon after, not during. You know, we don't want anyone getting hurt or anything, but soon after a blast, to find the fresh material that might be brought up to the surface. So again, always safety is number one. Leave all of, you know, this slide is like, it's got the TNT dynamite on it. Leave it to the professionals. They know what they're doing. They studied it for years. We want everyone to be safe. So I believe I am handing it off to Steve next.
Oh, yep, I'm here. Good evening, everyone. Let's see, I guess I just go to screen share. There we are. So I have, thanks for the invite tonight. I always enjoy speaking to the group. I'm not going to go full screen with my PowerPoint for the simple reason that every time I do that on my Mac here at home, for some reason it freezes up on me. And at the end of the program, I cannot get out of it. And I have to shut the whole system down. So I'm just going to keep the screen open like this with the sidebar on the left-hand side. And I think you can still pretty much see a full screen view. So I've geared this more towards the beginners and the people that are just starting to collect rocks and minerals. I focused more on minerals this evening than I did on rocks. I think that would have been way too much to cover in one evening. So just to fill everyone in, I don't consider myself an expert on rocks and minerals, but I consider myself very well versed. I like to tell people it's not my first rodeo. When I collected my first rock and mineral specimen, plate tectonics was not a thing yet. So that gives you an idea of how long I've been studying and working in geology. So let's get started here. We'll talk a little bit about mineral ID. Well, first of all, as of 2022, the International Mineralogical Association recognizes over 5,400 officially recognized species of minerals. And every year that list continues to grow by probably 100, on the order of 100 or more. It becomes more difficult to discover new minerals every year, but for the majority of us in our lives in mineral collecting, we will probably only encounter 100, maybe 150 or 200 of those minerals. And some of them have such subtle differences that it really takes an expert to tell them apart. So just a brief summary, what exactly is a mineral? You'll see a variety of definitions that do tend to vary a little bit, but for the most part, we all agree that within a normal temperature range found on the surface of the earth, minerals must be solids. They must be naturally occurring. They cannot be anything that is man-made. They must be inorganic and not made by living things, but that has now changed because of as of 2019, the International Mineralogical Association now recognizes organic minerals. So we do have a class of organic minerals, and they're even listed in the new versions of Dana's Manual of Mineralogy. They're extremely rare, but we do have organic minerals. Minerals have a definite chemical composition within a certain range, because when we look at things like the pyroxenes and amphibole and feldspars, we get solid solution series where the percentages of like sodium and potassium can vary within minerals, and they have subtle differences. All minerals have a definite chemical composition within a range, and they have a crystalline structure. The atoms and molecules are arranged in a lattice. So I belong to several different Facebook groups online, Pennsylvania Rockhounds, Rockhounding for Beginners, and some other ones. And I enjoy belonging to those groups, and I always find it interesting. One of the things that I enjoy chiming in on is people will post pictures of rocks and minerals that they find. And these are 5 or 6 actual photographs that I just copied off those sites from today. So typically on a typical day, we get hundreds of, look what I found, what is it? So I think one of the big misconceptions that a lot of new collectors have is that it's really easy to identify rocks and minerals when you put a picture of them up on the screen. And I think we can tell from this middle one, I have absolutely no idea what that is. And I don't mind admitting that. It's blurry, it's out of focus. Your typical photographs of rocks and minerals that appear on a screen, you have to realize that on a computer screen, the color looks totally different than what it does in natural sunlight. They tend to be blurry. People post pictures of stuff from a distance that's very difficult to identify. Here's another example of that. Here's one that came up today. Here's a close-up view of a rock that I found in Flagstaff, Arizona. I need to identify it. Well, I can tell you that it is a rock. Other than that, I found these 6 minerals. What are they? I believe this one, judging by the cleavage, not necessarily the color, that looks like K feldspar, orthoclase feldspar, possibly a quartzite or a marble, looks like chert. The rock on the right, I have no idea what that could be. The person that posted that picture didn't even give a location. So we can start to run into issues with people new to the hobby, new to the science of geology. And there's a lot of misconceptions also. I will tell you this, as a geology professor, I absolutely detest, maybe a little strong of a word to use, I detest and hate rock and mineral identification apps. As a matter of fact, if I catch my students using them in class, I fail them for the lab, because I tell them the worst possible way to identify a rock or mineral is by comparing it to pictures in a book or using an app. And those rock and mineral apps, I find that they are rarely correct. I've downloaded a few to try them, and I erased them all when it told me that the arm of my easy chair was vesicular basalt. So it's I don't think they're very reliable, and I don't allow my students to use them in class. They have to go by the physical properties. So for those of us that are used to collecting minerals in the field and identifying them, or going to a mineral show and picking through boxes of unidentified rocks and minerals, here are the things that we use to identify a mineral. Color, the physical properties: color, streak, luster, the crystal shape, hardness, cleavage, and fracture. So let's just take a quick look at each of these. Usually when you pick up a rock or a mineral, the first thing that pops out at you is the color. We usually recognize color first. And out of all the physical mineral properties, color is the least reliable property. And I constantly tell my students, and they always fall into this trap. I show them something that's purple and they immediately write down amethyst, because they think every purple mineral is amethyst, and they forget to check the hardness. They forget to check the streak or the luster. There are hundreds of purple minerals: fluorite, amethyst quartz, other purple minerals, and a mineral can be a wide variety of different colors. The color in a mineral can change by an enormous amount. Quartz is an outstanding example of that. You can find quartz in almost every conceivable color, hue, and shade. So trying to identify a mineral based just on color is the worst possible way. And I find students referring to books also. They'll use a book and they'll start to look up purple minerals or green minerals. And a lot of times in lab, I deliberately give them a mineral that has a very unusual color. And even if it's a common mineral, just to force them to use the other mineral properties. So color is important. It's the first step in identification, but it's the least reliable. Streak is probably the next logical place to go. The streak is simply the color of the powdered mineral after being rubbed vigorously on an unglazed ceramic tile. And that ceramic tile is usually white if you have minerals that leave a dark streak, but we also use a flat black streak plate for minerals that have a light color, like gypsum or calcite, and then you can see the light colored streak, which is often difficult to see on a white streak plate. So I suggest that people carry both streak plates, the white and black ones, and they come in a variety of sizes. I think streak is a more important diagnostic test than color. Pyrite, for example, pyrite often has a brilliant brassy yellow color, but when you streak a piece of pyrite on a streak plate, you get a dark greenish black or black streak. The streak color looks nothing like the pyrite itself. Amethyst will leave a white streak. Fluorite will leave a white streak. The good comparison is always hematite and magnetite. Regardless of the type of hematite that you have, you'll usually get a maroon or a reddish brown streak, and magnetite will usually leave a dark black streak. And in a pinch, I tell people to use if they find a mineral and they want to do a streak test, I tell them, be very careful, but you can use the underside of a toilet tank lid, which is usually unglazed and is a good second for streak. So we have color, we have streak, and then we have luster. Luster is the way in which the entire mineral sample, the whole mineral, reflects natural light. And with luster, we usually divide minerals into two categories. We have the metallic luster minerals, which simply put have a luster that resembles a native metal like lead, gold, silver, platinum, copper, iron, steel, well, even though steel is an alloy, but and then we have the non-metallic luster minerals, which are earthy, waxy, vitreous or glassy, dull, pearly, resinous. So I usually tell my students, try to decide, do you have a metallic luster mineral or non-metallic luster mineral? A nice hint to go along with this is the majority of metallic luster minerals will always leave a dark streak. There are very, very few non-metallic minerals that leave a dark streak. Most non-metallic minerals have a white or off-white or tan or buff colored streak, but you encounter metallic minerals like galena, pyrite, and they all have a dark streak. And also minerals that tend to have a metallic luster also tend to be very, very dense because of the iron content within them. So we have luster, we have metallic, we have non-metallic. More specific luster terms. Serpentine is often described as having a non-metallic greasy luster, and it will sometimes feel greasy also. Quartz is a classic example of a non-metallic glassy or vitreous luster. Limonite or the gothites, the iron oxides tend to have an earthy luster, non-metallic earthy or dull luster. Hardness. There's a great deal of misconception about hardness also. Most beginners in the hobby believe that hardness is whether or not you can break the mineral with your hammer. And the ability of a mineral to break or fracture apart or crack has nothing to do with hardness. To a geologist, hardness is the ability to resist abrasion or being worn down or scratched. And of course, we have Mohs hardness scale, which runs from 1 to 10, 10 representative minerals that form a distribution from the softest to the hardest known natural minerals. And of course, talc being a number 1, diamond being a number 10. And then I tell my students that carry a piece of quartz with you, a quartz crystal, and then you'll always have a number 7 to compare to. And then we know that using a piece of glass has a hardness of around 5. We hold the glass down on the table with our fingers and never in our hand. That leads to some pretty nasty, deep lacerations, but you hold the glass plate down on the table, vigorously scratch the mineral back and forth on the glass plate. And if the mineral is harder than a 5 or 5.5, it will scratch the glass. And then you can test it on your piece of quartz or even carry a piece of topaz. Most of us in general collecting will not encounter minerals that are above a 9 or a 10. You have corundum, the garnets, but in general collecting, there are very few minerals that you'll encounter that will approach a 10. Carry a piece of calcite and you have a perfect 3. Of course, your fingernail is a 2.5, and we can compare the different things by scratching them back and forth. So that's what hardness is. The glass plate in your field kit, it's always helpful to carry a glass plate. Quartz will scratch glass. Gypsum will never scratch glass. I sometimes shock my students in the classroom because I have a large piece of gypsum that's the size of my hand, and I'll walk over to the window in the classroom and I'll just vigorously rub the gypsum back and forth across the plate glass window, and they all gasp like I'm going to be fired for destroying university property. And the gypsum will actually wear away on the glass and crumble. And I assure them that the gypsum will not scratch the glass, but your fingernail will scratch gypsum. So that's the hardness scale. And then we move on to how will the mineral react when struck with the hammer or hit with another mineral? How will the mineral break? Many minerals have what we call cleavage. And the cleavage is the ability to break along a flat surface, a semi-flat surface, and we have different degrees of cleavage. Minerals can have poor cleavage, they can have good cleavage, they can have excellent cleavage where you get perfectly flat breaks at different angles across the mineral. So we can have different degrees of cleavage, and we can have different directions of cleavage. Mica, muscovite, biotite, the common micas are an example of a mineral with excellent one-directional cleavage where the mineral breaks into flat sheets that are often flexible. Feldspar has two directions of cleavage at about 90 degrees, the third direction not cleaving. Calcite and halite, natural salt, and the common calcite both have three directions of cleavage. The difference is that halite, the cleavage angles intersect at 90 degrees, and calcite intersects at more than 90 degrees, and you have a rhombohedral shape. So some minerals will naturally cleave, and that's based on the atomic structure of the mineral and planes of weakness. So mica with one direction of perfect cleavage, and calcite with three directions of cleavage, but not at 90 degrees. And we get these beautiful, often you get these beautiful little rhombohedral cleaved shapes from calcite. On the other hand, the exact opposite of cleavage is fracture. Some minerals, when struck with a hammer, you always want to wear your safety glasses. Some minerals will not show cleavage, but instead will show fracture, which is a rough, uneven break. And there are different degrees and different patterns of fracture. One of them is a lumpy fracture. Magnetite and pyrite will break in an irregular lumpy fracture. Quartz, chert, flint will often break in a circular shell-like pattern known as a conchoidal fracture. And the rest of the mineral, you'll get these incredibly sharp, jagged edges along a fracture. For the more advanced collector, advanced collectors of minerals will often identify their mineral based solely on the crystal form or the crystal shape. So for an experienced mineral collector, for an experienced mineralogist, with micromounts, identifying them under a scope, or just looking at them with a hand lens, or even large macro crystals, an experienced collector can sometimes identify their sample based solely on the crystal shape. I can sometimes do that, but I'll admit it can be a little disconcerting when you start getting into the subclasses of crystals. I always suggest that mineral collectors invest in a good UV light. And I know that Jerry talked about fluorescence, but a good UV light, I'm not sure how well this is showing up on the screen here, but I have a piece of willemite. Whoop, no, wrong piece. There we go. No wonder it wasn't lighting up. I have a piece of willemite from Franklin, New Jersey, that lights up in a brilliant apple green color. And that's very indicative of that zinc mineral. So I usually tell mineral collectors, invest in a good UV light, because a lot of minerals can be identified just by their fluorescence and their fluorescent color. And associations are important also. One of the things I did not list here is that certain minerals are associated with other minerals in metamorphic and igneous and sedimentary environments. For instance, if you're in an area of igneous or metamorphic rock, quartz is usually associated with the amphiboles like hornblende. Quartz and mica are closely associated because quartz and mica, especially muscovite mica, are the last two minerals to crystallize out of a melt, out of a magma. So we normally find quartz and mica crystallized in the same type of rocks. Fluorescence, just a brief lesson on fluorescence, is caused by the high energy UV radiation. strikes certain atoms that we call activators. Manganese is a primary activator in fluorescent minerals. The UV radiation strikes the orbiting electron. It adds energy to the electron. The electron jumps up to a higher energy level, and when it falls back down, it releases a photon of light that we perceive as fluorescence. I also like to tell people that when you compare reflected light, the way a mineral looks in reflected light, the luster, to fluorescent light, fluorescent minerals are always brilliant and vibrant. And that's because you are seeing emitted light and not reflected light. So you're actually seeing the mineral sample is producing high energy photons of light, and it's not just reflected light. So I happen to use Convoy, the little portable Convoy lights, which I think are really, really reasonably priced. They're small, they're easy to put in your field pack. They come with a rechargeable battery. I have no interest in the Way Too Cool company or Convoy, so I don't get any type of commission for trying to sell their lights. But I have the 4-watt Convoy, and I'm going to get myself a 6-watt Convoy. A little more powerful, a little bit more powerful of a UV beam. These have rechargeable batteries in them. They cost under $100 with an extra battery and a recharger that plugs in the wall. The thing to keep in mind with the UV light is if you buy a 4-watt light, you're getting 3 watts of UV, and the 4th watt is dissipated and lost as heat. So usually out of every UV light that you buy, for instance, the 6-watt light, you're getting 5 watts of UV energy, and 6 watt is lost as heat for generating the UV. Phosphorescence is another property of minerals, an unusual property. You usually need to have a darkened room to see this. Fluorescence is the active emission of light when exposed to ultraviolet, but if you take the ultraviolet light away, certain minerals and other materials will continue to glow for several seconds or several minutes or up to an hour. Because the atoms continue to release that stored UV energy, and we call that phosphorescence. Other unusual properties: calcite, clear calcite, which is known as Iceland spar. If you have a nice clear rhombohedron of calcite and you place that over something that's written or printed, calcite shows what's known as birefringence. It splits the light ray into 2 rays, and you can rotate the piece of calcite and watch one image revolve around the other. And we call that double refraction or birefringence. So calcite is probably the most common mineral that easily shows this property, that can be observed without any special equipment. You just take your plain piece of calcite and put it over anything that's written or printed. Quartz, a clear quartz crystal, will not show this property. I know that Dirtman talked about radioactivity. I didn't bring any of my radioactive samples here with me tonight, but some people just enjoy collecting radioactive minerals. There's several found here in Pennsylvania, up around Mauch Chunk, Jim Thorpe. There were some famous sites for collecting carnotite and other radioactive minerals. Geiger counters, little portable Geiger counters, tend to be expensive, but you can often pick up a used one in an older model. If you're not going to get into the science of the exact nature of the subatomic particles, you can pick up a basic Geiger counter that just will tell you that you have a radioactive substance. Some minerals show the unusual property of magnetism. There's a little bit of misconception here also. Magnetite is not always magnetic. As a matter of fact, magnetite is usually not magnetic. A magnet will stick to magnetite, but the magnetite itself is not magnetic. Magnetic magnetite we call lodestone. So if it acts as a magnet and picks up ferrous objects, it's magnetite, but then we call it lodestone. You would be surprised how many, in the course of 1 year, how many people stop by campus or mail me samples of meteorites that they found. Well, I found something that's magnetic. Magnet will stick to it. It picks up nails. I found a meteorite. And my pat answer is, and I've never been wrong, my pat answer is, no, you didn't. You didn't find a meteorite. And out of the last 40 years, I've never been wrong. So just a little bit of side trivia. In the last 200 years, less than 2,000 meteorites have been found in North America, in the 48 states. So yeah, there are meteorites out there, but they're not as common as people think. Carry a little bottle of hydrochloric acid with you. HCl. I have our chemistry department mix this up. Hydrochloric acid, 10% solution is usually strong enough. I used to be able to go to the local pharmacy, our local Rexall drugstore. He used to have hydrochloric acid, and he would mix me up a little bit of a solution. And then they stopped doing it a couple of years ago. So I now get it from the chemistry department. And I say, well, I need about a 10% solution. That's usually enough to test carbonate group rocks and minerals, calcite, azurite, malachite, limestone. So if you get a bubbling reaction, you know you have something that's carbonate based. In a pinch, you can use vinegar. And I usually tell people, go to Walmart or your Dollar General and get cleaning vinegar. Cleaning vinegar is about 1 or 2% stronger than normal household vinegar. And in a pinch, if you're real careful, use muriatic acid that you can buy in like Lowe's or Home Depot, and you can dilute that down. Or CLR cleaner is a good substitute for hydrochloric acid too. Label your specimens. When you collect a collection that's undocumented, just having rocks and minerals laying around, I've always thought, my opinion is it's virtually worthless if you don't remember or you don't document where it comes from. Jerry, I think this was one of the collectors from Pennsylvania that you mentioned in your program, Jay Liniger. So I found online, I found one of his labels. I'd use that as an example. There's a lot of different ways to label your collections, general description, a catalog number, where you found it, who you may have gotten it from. And this is a tag that I use that I just print up on my computer and print them out on heavy paper. I give the sample, the rock or mineral or fossil, a number, name, a general description, where I found it, location, and the date. And then on the back, I'll add some extra information. Here's some examples that I just pulled offline. This is a thumbnail or a micro mount box. It's been turned upside down, and the person has their collection number on it, and in tiny, tiny little font, they've printed out labels, and that's taped to the bottom of each box. And just some other examples. Some of my specimens, I'll use a hot glue gun. Large hand samples, I'll print out a label and I'll use a hot glue gun, and I'll hot glue the tag to an inconspicuous location on the rock or mineral. So it's right there with the sample, especially if it's a bigger sample. I thought I would show this to the group. Someone posted this today on one of the rock sites I was on. They collected some rocks in Arizona, and they said that when they put them out in the sun, some of them glowed bright blue. And I've never heard of this before. I'm not quite sure. I don't think I've ever seen anything react to the amount of UV that's given off from the sun like this. Maybe someone else, feel free to chime in with your opinion, but they're saying that the blue color was caused by the UV of the sun. I don't think that's sapphire bearing rock. And then finally, if all else fails, if you cannot identify your rock or mineral by luster, streak, hardness, cleavage, or fracture, you chip off a small piece and you send it to the New Mexico Bureau of Geology as one source, and they will do an X-ray diffraction analysis for you. And this was an actual mineral sample that I received from China. It was eucryptite. Eucryptite is a metamorphic, I believe, a metamorphic lithium-bearing mineral that's mined in China. And I sent some other pieces to my former college professor, and he looked at it under a UV light and he saw some unusual fluorescent colors, and he sent it to the New Mexico Bureau of Geology, and he paid the fee to have an XRD done on it. And the peaks came back indicating, I'm not even going to try to pronounce these two mineral names, but these are extremely rare minerals, and they were present in the piece of eucryptite that I thought just contained eucryptite. But the X-ray diffraction said, no, there's a lot of other very, very rare and unusual minerals within that piece. So that was my quick. I know I can sometimes be long-winded. I made a point tonight. I told Jerry that I'll go through quick. If I know that you're going to put that online, Jerry, but if anyone would like a copy of that PowerPoint, if you want that PowerPoint, you can email me and I'll attach it to an email and I will send it to you. So if there's any questions or comments, we have someone else going next, Jerry, or was that it?
Pete Fountain's up next.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
All right. I hope I didn't go too long. It's already 8:23, so I'll stop right there.
Okay. Okay, Pete, take over here, sir.
All right, you got it. And Steve, thanks. That was some great information. Not going to be doing any kind of a PowerPoint presentation. I'm just going to give you some basic Rockhound apps that I use and that I've been using, and some cross-referencing materials that I've been using over the years. And one of the first things I will say is I run a rockhounding group called on Facebook called PA Rockhound Spots Finds, and we generally like to introduce people to the field and give them some basic information. We have a search bar in the very beginning of our group page, and we have hundreds and hundreds of hours and pinned maps for locations that people can go to. Some of these are a little bit outdated because this was put together from other maps, but either way, you need to do some research and elaborate and follow through so you know exactly where you're going. And in order to do that, I suggest using another app, which would be Google Maps. Very simple. I believe everybody's pretty familiar with it. But the Google Maps does offer the satellite imagery and the terrain and even the street view. And in a lot of cases, when I go or before I go to a location, I will pull up and scout the area for creeks, hills. I'll even do a street drive basically with the street view. I'll actually drive the location and look for areas to enter a location and see what's accessible and what's not accessible. And another app that I've noticed was mentioned earlier was mindate.org. And that is a very good app for anywhere in the country. I use it religiously between the Google Maps and cross-reference. And using that, you'll basically type in your town with mindat.org, and it will bring up a database that is filled with a lot of information, even pictures of some finds that you can find in certain locations. I will say to make sure if you do look at the pictures for what they show you there, make sure they're pictures of that location, because in some cases they're showing you different minerals and different rocks from other locations that may not match the location you're looking to go. If you do find a picture from the location, screenshot it, put it in your phone and save it to a separate album. So that when you do go out to a site in the field, you can cross-reference that on your phone and you'll have a basic idea, and that has helped me a few times. And, you know, again, the mindat.org is definitely a good site to use. And I would say that one of the other reference materials that I use and have been studying quite a lot over the past, say, 2 years is Ronald Sloto's books. He has 3 books or 4 books out now, and I believe he's coming out with 2 more. The Mines and Minerals of Berks County, Mines and Minerals of Bucks County, Mines and Minerals of Montgomery County, and I believe it's Bucks County. And the amazing thing about his books is you can go right to the back into the appendages and you can see exactly where your spots are located. Again, I take them and I cross-reference them with Google Maps or Google Earth and zoom in and get your clarity and know where you're going to go before you go. It's all part of preparation. And we can't stress that you know, enough, especially in the Facebook group that we're in. People are always asking for spots and how do we get there? And we try to teach them the research is important and the process upon which they can go, which would be Google Maps, Mindat, and then any type of a reference that you're using. You want to go for it and just get as much information and scout the areas the best that you can. So as far as the Facebook apps, there are definitely a few, and I heard Pennsylvania Rockhounds mentioned a few times. Our site, again, tends to cater more to the knowledge, and there's hundreds of hours that are stored within that app. So I definitely encourage you, if you're not a part or a member at this time, to join, and we can certainly take you by the hand and move you along. Steve did mention about the pictures, people trying to get IDs. They seem to think that these rockhound groups are there just for IDing rocks. And you really can't do that with a picture, as Steve stated. And I agree with the apps scenario as well, as far as rock apps. A lot of them are trying to get you to pay to show you the color of a rock and identify it by color, and it can't be done. If you're going to use an app and you don't want to pay for it, at least try Google Lens. That will give you cross-referenced images, which you can at least get an idea of what you have and try and find something close, and then follow through with your Mohs test and your streak test. I definitely tell people all the time on the Facebook app, turn over your toilet tank. Most of them are cream color, beige, and use the unglazed portion and go for the streak test. And give us a location. Don't just put in there, what is this rock? Because you need more information. It's extremely important. And if you want help, the only way we can give you help is if you help us. And again, you know, I'll get back into the Facebook apps. I belong to probably 52, 53 across the country because I have done cross-country digging. I go to Florida every once in a while, visit my son. So we will go through Virginia. I'll make 6 stops in each state on the way. And I actually communicate with people and get them to give me information, and I share information if they come up this way. We're all in the same boat. We're trying to figure out where to go, and that seems to be one of the biggest issues in this line with this passion. I will call it a passion. It's not a hobby. It's a passion. I needed to get away. A lot of people I feel mentally needed to get away, and most people I talk to in these groups are doing it for just that reason. They want to get away from the stresses of life. So we don't want to make it more stressful for them. I'm not a geologist. I couldn't tell you half the words that the geologists can pronounce, but at the same time, it's something that you learn as you go along. And you know, the one of the other apps I would say to use is a weather app. You want to go out and hunt a creek, don't go the day after it rains. You want to know exactly where you're going to go, and you're using your Google Earth maps, and you're going to zero in on a creek. You're going to find where to park. Oh, well, too bad. You can't even get to the banks of the creek because it rained heavy the day before. And with your weather app, the same thing. If you're looking for a shiny crystal and you're going to go hunt a farm field, which, you know, believe it or not, crystals are found in farm fields, rutiles found in farm fields and fawn grove. You want to be able to have that reflection come back at you. So that's a pretty important thing. You want to know that you're going to go on a sunny day and maybe a day after it rains. So your weather app alone is helpful, and it's part of your research, and it should be part of your research. And going out on a trip with other people, I feel, is extremely important because safety is important, and in numbers, you will always be safer. And you know, I fell 2 weeks ago myself, trekking through it's not a private area. It was actually a park that was designated for kids, a dog park, and there was a little collecting area off to the side, and there was fencing there. So I needed help getting up. So safety in numbers, definitely important. And I will elaborate on the tools portion that we talked about. I carry a stack of 6-quart I believe sterilite containers with lids. I've found in the past that when I collect specimens, I throw them in my truck. Get home, they're under the seat. They've moved here, they moved there. If I put them in a container that I have stacked there, I put a lid on that container with a Sharpie written on the lid. And I probably got 8 or 10 different containers in my truck right now, but at least I know what they are, and they're not mixed in with other rocks. And I've got a big conglomerate mess in the back of my vehicle, front of my vehicle, in the center console, in the ashtray, whatever. You know, we've all been there. So I'm hoping that some of the information with the apps, I don't want to drag this on too long, but it's a matter of going in and doing your research and being able to combine your research and combine your apps and make one trip out rather than 2 or 3 or 4 trips and not finding anything, because you will have off days where you don't find things. And it's discouraging, especially if you have kids. You're taking kids and you're going to say, we're going to go find this. And, you know, you haven't done your research, and that little bit of extra research, looking things up online, will definitely help you out and make your trip worthwhile. There's some places that you shouldn't be going, and we try to elaborate that on our Facebook page, and that would be state parks and preserves. There are some exceptions to that rule. There are some fossil collection allowed, I believe, Swatara State Park and Montour Preserve, and even Beltsville does allow fossil collecting. I believe I'm correct on that, and Jerry, you could probably elaborate on that if I'm incorrect. The last information I've looked up, all states, they are collectible areas. So, and basically, I suggest you're going to go out, make sure you leave some minerals for other people. We tend to have people that are infiltrating our groups, and they're either scamming, they have rock shops, and they're trying to find spots and go out and take what they can so they can sell it, and they leave it bare and they leave holes, and it's a danger to wildlife and a danger to people who are other collectors. You want to fill your holes, you want to take care of being respectful to the areas that you go to. I mean, these are some of the things that most people don't think about when you go out rock hunting, rock hounding, and I think they're Part of the important things is do some heavy research and leave it as you found it. Pack out what you pack in. And what's left in the ground is yet to be found. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Andrew. And I appreciate the time.
Thank you, sir. That was amazing. Thank you. So I'm gonna make this real quick because it's already way past Zoom normal hour. I just wanted to bring this up. In the tool section that Melanie did was great, but I just wanted to bring this up. This is the GAD bars made by Estwing. This is a tool I highly recommend you put in your kit. It's super lightweight. It's way lighter than any steel wedges or spring wedges that you might use. And it's great for breaking rock. So very durable, can pound on it all day. So anyway, here is, I'm just going to talk real quick about my Central PA Rock and Mineral Club. Because it all starts, Rockhounding 101 always starts with the, rock clubs. We are here for the Rockhound. So I am president of the Central PA Rock and Mineral Club. I'm also VP of the Keystone Treasure Hunters Club, social media directors for both EFMLS and Friends of Mineralogy PA. So I'm involved with a bunch of different things. And of course, there's all the online ones that I post to as well. Real quick, Central PA Rock and Mineral Club. We were established in 1958. We're dedicated. And as president, I am dedicating my presidency to rockhounds and youth activities, focusing on fun. Literally, I mean, that's like the key word for me. I'm tired of old men club, keep your secrets to yourself kind of. So I am all about education, learning, spreading knowledge to the masses, because people love rocks, people love geology. So I'm here to help make that happen. Our club is nonprofit. We're run by volunteers, and we have a lot of outreach stuff that we do. Including posters, events, field trips, social media engagement, that kind of thing. We have a program called Rocks for Kids. This is me there teaching gold panning. I teach gold panning to over 100 kids every year. Every event that we have has over 100 kids. We actually have kids in our club that do presentations as well. This is Trent Myers. He's now in college, but he's been doing the fluorescent tent for many, many years. There are other kids that help out throughout the day and spread the love as well. Our annual show happens in Harrisburg. Very well attended event every single year. As you can see here, that's my VP Karen's daughter there. She was doing the gold panning. Jerry actually did a presentation on gold panning, so I was helping out with that last year. And of course, Brittany Martin over here, former Central PA Rock and Mineral president. So I had to put her in there. All right, our meetings, we have featured speakers and presentations every month, with the exception of 2 months, 2 months. One is our Christmas dinner, and the other is our auction, which is coming up here in May. We have, for every meeting, we have a youth program and activity that the kids are able to do while we're talking business. And of course, my Dirtman report. It always shows here on the Rock Room first, but I always play them at my at the meetings after the business meeting and before the presentation, just like the Rock Room. So we also, as part of our outreach, these are the posters that we have created, and they are hanging in the Pennsylvania Geological Survey. I believe that's what I'm told. They're hanging in the main office there. The first one, Rocks, Minerals, Fossils of Pennsylvania, was done a few years back. And the one on the right here, the Fossils of Pennsylvania, I just created that for the club a year or two ago. So that's a newer one, but we have both of these. They're available for free to the general public. Anyone who wants one, just let me know. I'll get them to you. Next time I see you or something on a trip or something. So yeah, that is our club. If you would like to join, rockandmineral.org. Just look up Central PA Rock and Mineral Club on Facebook. We would love to have you. I would love to have you. We have had record attendance all this year at our meetings, which is awesome. I love sharing everything. And we have lots of field trips. We go all over the place, and we're always just trying to help spread the word and knowledge and help out everyone. And that's really what I am putting out there for our club for this year. And it's always been that way, but you know, I'm just focusing on that for this year. I want anyone with a question, and I put this in our Rockbusters. We have a monthly newsletter. I've put my phone numbers, my contact infos. Anyone has a question, call me. I'm happy to help figure it out, because I have people like Jerry and Steve Lindbergh and Pete and Jake and all these wonderful, amazing people that know so much that can help me out when you bring me a question. So thank you, everyone. That's all I've got. Back to you, Jerry.
Okay, Andrew. Hey, thank you to everybody that participated tonight. Lots of good, valuable information there. Two things I just want to add that I didn't quite hear from anybody. So if you do photography, put a picture on an app or whatever, if you notice the picture behind me has a scale on it. Okay, and that's pretty valuable. Sometimes we don't know how big a specimen it is. So have a scale of some sort. It could be a pencil or a hammer, whatever. Okay, just to give us an idea about how large something is. And I think Pete touched on it a little bit too, is that know where you're at as far as collecting. Certainly if you're on somebody's property, you need to get permission to be on their property. And know if a particular park, for example, allows collecting. Most parks do not want things carried off the parkland. So just be aware, and and just check before you might go.
I want to say something, Jerry. I was really surprised to look at my Waynesboro Record Herald, and there you were below the fold on the front page.
Oh no.
That was yesterday.
Okay. All right.
Took up the whole width of the paper.
Oh, must have been a slow news day. So, and Steve touched on it too, is that mineral associations is really, really valuable. Because if somebody comes to me and my first question to you is, where did you find this? If you would say York County, for example, I would then have a picture in my mind about the geology and the mineral associations in the different sections. And that's something that you learn as you get more and more experience. Okay. So anyway, great information tonight. I do have one story to kind of close off the program tonight. Oh, by the way, of course, this program has been recorded, and it will be put on our website at jonesgeo.com under the Zoom Rock Room. Probably later tonight it'll be done. If you want to review it or pass it on to somebody else to view it. So call in Melanie. Melanie, are you still here? I believe you are.
I am.
Yeah, I have a story to tell you about something related to tonight's topic. I knew a fourth grader years ago who wanted to take a quartz crystal to school to show and tell, scratching a glass plate. But before he left the house, he did not have a glass plate with him at that point. So he just wanted to make sure it worked before he left the house. So he tried it out on the TV tube. And guess what? It worked. So, like Steve talking about scratching the windows out at the college there. So anyway, that's going to bring us to an end. Our next program, the first Tuesday in May. Pete talked about him. Ron Sloto is going to be here to talk about the mines of Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. So join us with that. Again, you folks that are joining us tonight through the apps, if you want to come back, email jonesgeo@comcast.net, and we will put you onto our season pass list where you'll get a invite every time that we do it. So on behalf of everybody that participated tonight, wonderful job. Thank you, everybody. We wish everybody a great night. Be safe out there collecting, and obviously, good luck. Good night, everybody.
Night, everybody.